After the death of Muawiyah, Yazid demanded allegiance from Imam Husain, R.A. Refusing to endorse what he believed was wrong, Imam Husain, R.A. left Medina and journeyed to Mecca. Meanwhile, thousands of letters arrived from Kufa, calling upon him to lead and guide them. He sent Muslim ibn Aqil, R.A., to verify their loyalty. At first, the people welcomed him and pledged their support, but Yazid replaced Kufa's governor with the harsh and feared Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, hoping to crush any support for Imam Husain, R.A. Trusting their promises, Imam Husain, R.A., set out with his family and companions. Before he was martyred, news reached Imam Husain, R.A., that Kufa had changed and its promises could no longer be trusted. Yet Imam Husain, R.A., continued his journey, determined to stand for truth and justice until his caravan on the way. Hurr and his riders intercepted the caravan and prevented it from reaching Kufa. Yet even in that tense moment, Imam Husain, R.A., shared his water with them when they were thirsty. Soon the caravan was forced to stop on the barren plains of Karbala. More armies arrived. The Euphrates, a land destined to witness one of history's greatest sacrifices, lay before them. The tents were raised and the camp was established. Imam Husain, R.A., prepared his family and companions for the uncertain days ahead. Across the desert, more soldiers continued arriving from Kufa. With each passing day, the army surrounding Karbala grew larger. Yet inside the camp, faith, patience, and unity remained strong. Imam Husain, R.A., sought peace and wished to avoid conflict. Messages were exchanged, and every effort was made to find a peaceful solution. But the governor's demands became harsher, and hope for compromise slowly faded. New orders arrived from Kufa, rejecting every proposal for peace. Then Shimr arrived carrying even stricter instructions. Soon, enemy forces moved toward the Euphrates. The river was heavily guarded, and access to water became restricted. The first signs of thirst appeared inside the camp. Water supplies began running low. Children quietly asked for water, while parents comforted them with patience and faith. Imam Husain, R.A., reminded everyone to remain steadfast and trust in Allah. As darkness fell, the camp spent its nights in prayer, Quran recitation, and remembrance of Allah. Meanwhile, more troops continued arriving, tightening the siege around Karbala. Watching these events unfold, Hurr began questioning the path he had chosen. As the shortage deepened, Abbas, R.A., started planning a mission to reach the Euphrates. Under the cover of darkness, brave companions moved toward the river. There they discovered a powerful blockade guarding every approach.
The sands hunger for their return.
Camp, they reported the danger ahead.
We must move now.
Water skins were
before
prepared.
The moon wanes.
Volunteers stepped forward without hesitation. Before dawn, the mission began. The companions crossed the desert in silence, avoiding patrols and watchfires. At last the Euphrates stood before them. The water skins were filled, and hope returned to their hearts. But soon, the guards discovered their presence. Meanwhile, the opposing army prepared for battle. Rows of soldiers filled the horizon. Yet before any fighting began, Imam Husain, R.A., made one final appeal for peace. He reminded them of his lineage, his mission, and the values of Islam. But the army rejected his words. Then the first arrow was launched. With that single arrow, the Battle of Karbala began. The companions of Imam Husain, R.A., entered the battlefield one after another. Each fought not for worldly gain, but for faith, truth, and loyalty. Their courage became an example for future generations. Among the first great companions was Muslim ibn Usaja. He fought bravely until his final moments. When he fell, Habib ibn Muzahir rushed to his side. The two old friends exchanged words of faith and patience. It was a farewell that reflected a lifetime of devotion to Islam. Soon after, Hurr ibn Yazid entered the battlefield. The man who had once stood against Imam Husain, R.A., now stood in his defense. He fought courageously, seeking redemption through loyalty and sacrifice. His final stand became one of the most inspiring chapters of Karbala. When Hurr attained martyrdom, Imam Husain, R.A., honored him and prayed for him. The battle
Today is the day we
continued.
meet with
Habib ibn Muzahir, the elderly companion and loyal friend of Imam Ali, entered the battlefield. As the day of Ashura approached, Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi stood between two paths. He had once blocked the caravan of Imam Husain, R.A., but now his heart was restless. Looking toward the camp of Husain, R.A., he realized that truth stood before him, while falsehood surrounded him. Unable to ignore his conscience any longer, Hurr left the army he had served and rode toward Imam Husain, R.A. With humility and regret, he asked for forgiveness. Imam Husain, R.A., whose mercy reflected the teachings of his grandfather Muhammad, welcomed him with compassion. Hurr's repentance became one of the most powerful moments in the story of Karbala. The morning of Ashura arrived. Imam Husain, R.A., gathered his companions and addressed them with dignity and wisdom. He reminded them of the seriousness of the day ahead and thanked them for their loyalty and sacrifice. Among those present were great companions such as Zuhayr ibn Qayn and Habib ibn Muzahir. One after another they stood and declared their unwavering support. They promised that they would remain loyal until their final breath. The sacrifices continued with Un and Muhammad, the sons of Sayyida Zainab, R.A. The two young brothers entered the battlefield together. Their courage reflected the noble upbringing they had received from their blessed family. They supported one another until they fulfilled their promise of loyalty. Then came Qasim ibn Hasan, R.A., the young son of Imam Hasan, R.A. As the day grew more difficult, the thirst within the camp became severe. Children looked toward the tents with hope, longing for water. Seeing their suffering, Hazrat Abbas, R.A., the standard bearer of the camp, sought permission to bring water from the Euphrates. Abbas, R.A., rode toward the river with determination. Reaching the water, he remembered the thirst of Imam Husain, R.A., and the children. Filling the water skin, he immediately turned back toward the camp. The children waited eagerly for his return, but the camp would soon face another painful loss. The sacrifice of Abbas, R.A., deeply affected Imam Husain, R.A., who had relied upon his loyal brother throughout the journey. Ali Akbar, R.A., rode into the battlefield with courage and dignity. Those who saw him were reminded of the noble qualities of the Prophet. He stood firm for truth and justice. When news of his sacrifice returned to the camp, grief spread among the family. Yet Imam Husain, R.A., remained patient and steadfast. As the day neared its end, Imam Husain, R.A., gently lifted his infant son Ali Asghar, R.A., into his arms. Carrying the child before the opposing army, he appealed for water. He asked not for himself, but for the innocent infant who had no part in the conflict. The moment became one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the history of Karbala. Soon, the battlefield grew quiet. Most of the companions and family members had already fulfilled their promises. Imam Husain, R.A., stood alone upon the plains of Karbala. Looking across the battlefield, he remembered the sacrifices of those who had stood beside him. Though physically alone, he remained spiritually strong, placing complete trust in Allah. As the sun descended toward the horizon, Imam Husain, R.A., turned toward his Lord in prayer. In the midst of hardship, sorrow, and loss, he remained devoted to Allah. His final prayer reflected complete submission, patience, and faith.